American Popular Music Lecture 2. Chapter 2, After the Ball, Popular Music of the 19th and early 20th centuries. So here we have the minstrel show, mainly white performers who artificially blackened their skin and enacted parodies of African American music, dance, dress, and dialect. First form of musical and theatrical entertainment to be regarded by European audiences as distinctively American in character. George Washington Dixon, first white performer to establish a wide reputation as a blackface performer. Thomas Dartmouth Rice, a white actor born into a poor family in the New York 7th Ward, which includes the song Jim Crow, which would become a international American hit. In the 1840s to the 1880s, blackface minstrelsy rose to become the predominant genre of popular culture in the United States. Transformed into a more formally organized and predictable minstrel show, lost much of its subversive qualities. Minstrelsy reflected and helped promulgate national obsession with symbols of racial difference. Mid-19th century, minstrel songs are an important influence on mainstream American popular song. Minstrel troupes toured from the 1840s to 70s and created an embryonic national popular culture. Stephen Foster, 1826 to 1864, regarded as the first important composer of American popular song, produces around 200 songs, likely the first person in the United States to make his living as a full-time professional songwriter. Foster's compositions were heard in saloons, theater, variety shows, band concerts. He had success from social and technological factors, which would include songs being performed on the road by the minstrel troops. Sheet music publishing was expanding at the time. There was a growth of music education, a trend towards domestic, cheaper pianos, which were more affordable, and copyright. So Stephen Foster took advantage of all these technological innovations. Jeannie with the Light Brown Hair, make sure you listen to that. Music and lyrics by Stephen Foster, published in 1854, performed by Thomas Hampson. An example of Foster's Irish style performance of the song would have been a high male tenor with an Irish accent. There is a melodic structure of A, B, A, where the melody stays the same with A, and it is something different with B. And the arrangement is the way the song is presented in this particular performance. American popular music tied closely to dance and social functions of dancing, and this is largely true of lots of music throughout time, but especially American popular music. Earliest examples of published dance music were modeled on styles popular in England. Upper classes and upwardly mobile would include the ball, which is organized around a program of pre-selected music and played by an orchestra. We would have the grand ball, which is modeled on the aristocratic gatherings of European royalty. Public venue for Americans who desired to demonstrate their refinement and knowledge of high culture. Ballroom dancing focused more on uniformity and restraint than improvisation and the expression of emotion. And there would be a shift to couple dancing, where the waltz rises in popularity in the US, initially regarded as a threat to public morality, but at the end of the century, it changed to sophistication and romance. The 19th century, continual feedback between urban and rural, high class and low class, in quotations, dance styles. Urban professional musicians arrange folk dances and music for mass consumption. There is a diversity of American popular dance as waves of European immigrants who bring distinctive dance styles. They bring them with them to America. And there is a mass influence of African American dance beginning in the 1830s, which would rise to become the dominant force in American popular dance at the beginning of the 20th century. There are brass band concerts, and the brass band was important at this time. These are military bands spread rapidly during and after the Civil War. Regimental bands flourished after the war, and musicians formed bands in their home communities. High school bands formed during this period. So, for those of you that played in band in high school, or maybe continue to, or middle school, towns had parks with band shells, and the brass band movement drew energy from interaction of patriotism and popular culture with growing nationalism in America, which would lead us to John Philip Sousa, the most popular band leader from the 1890s until World War One, known as America's March King. He became the conductor for the United States Marine Band and later formed a commercial concert band that tours America and Europe. One of the first musicians to negotiate royalty payments with publishers, insisting on a percentage of the total sales of his compositions. So that would go on to influence literally every recording artist afterwards. And he would advocate for copyright reform. There is a birth of Tin Pan Alley. At the end of the 19th century, music publishing business centered in New York City. Established publishers challenged by smaller companies specialized in more exciting popular songs performed in dance halls, beer gardens, theaters. So largely we have these larger companies that are pushing out stars, and then we have smaller companies that are sort of in the weeds, finding all the cool stuff that's out there. Tin Pan Alley stretches from 28th Street in Lower Manhattan, where composers and song pluggers produced and promoted popular songs. In the 1890s, there would be a rise of modern American music business as we know today, Tin Pan Alley. Popular songs would be printed as sheet music, promoted by song pluggers whose job it was to promote a given company's product. So they would go out to singers, famous singers, and try to get them to sing songs from their composers. Sheet music sold by music outlets, mail order houses, department stores, and we discussed song pluggers. Vaudeville is a popular theatrical form descended from music hall shows and minstrelsy. It is an important medium for popularizing Tin Pan Alley songs, and it consists of performances by singers, acrobats, comedians, jugglers, dancers, so on and so forth. Tin Pan Alley would go on to dominate the mainstream music industry for almost 70 years. So we would have Paul Dresser, one of the most popular composers of the early Tin Pan Alley period, Harry Von Tilzer, the daddy of popular song. Plantation songs would descend from minstrel song tradition, including James A. Bland, the first successful Black songwriter. And he was a ex-minstrel show performer from a middle-class background and would go on to write approximately 700 different songs. So please make sure you listen to Charles K. Harris's After the Ball, which would be the first hit song. Harris was a self-taught banjo player from Wisconsin who could not write music but dictated it to a professional musician. This song became more popular after it was performed by Sousa's band at the 1893 World Columbian Exposition in Chicago. He declines a $10,000 offer for the rights and publishes it himself, and soon he starts making $25,000 a month. So that's big time money now, and especially back then. So strophes from strophic form, three main sections, each made of verse, chorus. Ragtime would be one of these important genres coming out of the late 1800s. Merging in the 1880s, it would popularize, peaking in the decade after the turn of the century, which would represent a more intimate engagement with African American musical techniques and values due to largely increasing involvement of Black songwriters and performers in the music industry. To rag is an African American term meaning to enliven a piece of music by shifting the melodic accents to the offbeats. So it'd be playing against the beat. And this probably had influences from the banjo, Latin American rhythms, and marching band music. So ragtimes are played by every type of ensemble: dance bands, brass bands, country string bands, symphonies, banjo, mandolin, solo pianists, and we typically note that from being Scott Joplin and lots of piano music, but technically you could turn almost anything to a rag. So the first piece of sheet music to bear the term rag would be All Coons Look Alike to Me, which is in quotations, and we briefly discussed, a lot of these terms are quite dated and even racist by today's well, I guess not even just today, because they even knew some of this back then, but it certainly does not age well. And some of the things that we learned in those class may be uncomfortable, but it is important to learn the history. So this is composed by an African American songwriter, Ernest Hogan, is a coon song, which would influence many other songs that would come afterwards in American popular music. And please read more in the textbook. So here we have Scott Joplin in Maple Leaf Rag, which is one of the most famous rags of all time. Scott Joplin is the best known composer of ragtime music. He has certainly stood the test of time. Anytime you hear the ice cream truck, you should be thinking about Scott Joplin, because the entertainer is that theme. African American composer and pianist. He received instruction in classical music theory from a German teacher. In 1893, he attends the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago and starts a brass band. And then he would move to Missouri, where he would write most of his famous compositions, including Maple Leaf Rag, named after the Maple Leaf Social Club in Sedalia, which would go on to become a huge hit, which would start a nationwide craze for syncopated music, or when you hear rags, it kind of has that sound to it. Form and style typical of ragtime would be A, A, B, B, A, C, C, D, D. So this is common in marches. Right hand plays syncopated rhythms against a regular bass part played by the left hand. And the interest comes from the conversation between the two hands. The rise of the phonograph. Thomas Edison invents the phonograph in 1877. And at the same time, it was invented by a French inventor, Charles Cros. 1887, Emil Berliner developed the flat gramophone disc. 1890s, the Nickelodeons. Turn of the century, American market in phonograph discs, dominated by two record companies, Columbia and Victor. And these early recordings were really based off of those cylinder discs, which are pictures in the textbook. The rise of the phonograph. We have a 12-inch shellac disc played at a speed of 78 RPM, which could hold 4 minutes of music. So that goes on to influence how music is written and recorded. First, phonographs regarded as toys and sort of mnemonic devices. So the phonograph for the home, sign of upward mobility. Here are some key terms from this lecture and some key people.